Who's the full-fledged moron responsible for this clusterfuck? Okay, come on, everybody. Don't raise your hands all at once. Netflix, raise your goddamn hands. Lionsgate, you are damn sure responsible. And you know what? Even the janitor in the back, raise your hand, raise your hand. You know what? I'll even raise my hand because I continue to watch slop like War Machine, which is not related to the War Machine Rhino. Had to channel Paul Heyman, at least as far as voiceover, not as far as beliefs. That's a deep cut for wrestling fans. Nobody else understands what the fuck I'm talking about. Anyway, War Machine is a Netflix original in association with Lionsgate, and it kind of makes sense that Lionsgate, given a number of flops that they've had, not every single movie of theirs has flopped, but enough have, that partnering with Netflix is about the only way that a movie like War Machine could get made. So, writer-director Patrick Hughes, Hugh Jass is more like it, but I digress, who did Red Hill, which was a pretty good modern western. Actually, in all honesty, I think it's the last great modern western. Maybe it says Tomahawk. There we go. Let's remake Bone Tomahawk, and let's have trauma involved. Not trauma like the last part of Bone Tomahawk. Anyway, not Bone Tomahawk. Expendables 3 has nothing to do with that, but it's also something else Patrick did. Hitman's Bodyguard, the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, and The Man from Toronto. And also, this was written by, the story, if you want to call it that, was done by James Buford. So, Alan Ritchson, I keep wanting to call Alan Ritchson just for some reason, who was in Playdate, had some fun. Admittedly, I was probably too harsh on that movie, but it wasn't very fucking good, even as satirical. He was also in Reacher. He also wore Arrest the Cops for killing Breonna Taylor. But there you go. Alan Ritchson understands, how to maybe balance appreciating God, because I believe he has stated he is a Christian, while also being a decent human being. Anyway, he seems likable. He's also super buff, and he plays 81. No, not to be confused with, I don't know, number 81 that anybody would wear in a sports franchise. 81, which is the number given to him, and various others that are trying to join the Army Rangers. Be the elite of the elite. Be the elite. Be the elite. And super kick and explode your shoes and do the one-wing angel and set it off. How many sub-references to wrestling can I make? Probably a lot, but let's just move on here. After they did mention his name, I believe briefly. I'm just going to call him 81 because it's funnier. It's also about as serious as I can take this movie. After an opening that shows why he is the way he is, he ends up trying to join the Army Rangers, even despite the fact that he has a knee problem. He is so buff and ready that as the numbers dwindle, he goes on a last exercise called Death March. He has to cross that finish line when he's complete. And it's a simulation that turns very, very real when an alien craft decides to come to life through stupidity and is a machine ready for war. Almost like they should have made a title of a movie for that. And then bingo bango, special effects, lasers, technology. It's Predator without any intelligence behind it. It basically is every bog standard war movie that you could go for with a bunch of stock characters. I did like Alex King with the shade. I thought she actually was fine. She was 44. Courtney is in this, who is in Dangerous Animals. Watch Dangerous Animals, by the way. The reason I am doing a review of War Machine, because I actually watched this before Hoppers. Check out my review of Hoppers. And I wasn't going to do a review of this. I will explain why I am. Because I need to speak out against slop like this. The movie is not having enough fun with its premise, and also is so assembly line that I'm shocked that this thing has any emotions it attempts at all. It feels like it was made by AI, but then that AI tried to remake that thing made by AI, but that AI had a bug, and then passed it off to another AI that was really goddamn ill, like it was about to be shut down because the data centers are melting and everything's eroding because AI fucking sucks. So anyway, speaking of sucks, War Machine pretty much sucks. It's not the absolute worst Netflix original that I've seen, or even the worst movie that I've seen this year. That'd be Relationship Goals, The Bride, and various others. By the way, check out my reviews of those on the Real Honest Movie Reviews playlist. But yeah, we just get a standard, film that, if it had more fun with its premise, I would have been on board. If it had enough intelligence behind it, to deal with the mental health struggles and the physical toll and all the stuff going on that many people, man, doesn't matter, they get into the military, whatever branch of the military, the stuff they put themselves through and push and push and push, and they want to push you around, well, I will. It doesn't have enough to, seriousness behind it to deal with those serious matters. So it's as, deep as a teaspoonful of water. Also, Dennis Quaid is in this because we need more reminders that this guy used to be a proud actor until he turned to the crackpot side. Maybe he always was, but at least he was a good actor for a while. Not anymore. And, yeah, we don't really get much else in there. We get the comedy relief 15, Blake Richardson, who seems fine. But, yeah, we just have characters at their assembly line, like with one particular dynamic that just get picked off by this war machine. And the ending's rather hilarious. So I'm going to get into spoilers. It's on Netflix if you want to check it out. So, yeah, 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. There we go. So, basically, we start off in Kandahar. No, not that again. No, back off, Gerard Butler. Why are you in so many movies that suck? No, this is the actual country of Kandahar, where 81 is talking to his platoon mates and also his brother. His brother, who's talked about joining the Army Rangers, and they're fixing this vehicle where stop leak was used, and that's something that stops a leak. Obviously, that's the name of it. That would be pretty pointless to call it a stop leak if it didn't stop something. But it also overheats the engine and causes a whole, bunch of issues and everything, and stuff blows up. Gee, I wonder if that's going to factor into the finish of this movie. It does. Stupidly, but it does. But they talk about joining the Army Rangers, and everybody's just all fun and jovial while they're fixing this vehicle, forgetting that they're in a foreign country where people probably aren't happy that they're there, and then suddenly a missile strike. Boy, if only we had technology to sense when these missiles are coming. And everybody's dead, except Alan Ritchson. And he, a number of years later, I believe 2 years later, could have been 2 months later, could have been 7 years later, like The Final Sacrifice. I'm starting to wish The Final Sacrifice writer had been involved in this, because they would have at least made it fun. So that being said, 2 years later, he's trying to join the Army Rangers. Every single time, he has not been able to. He's been medically, disqualified. Also, Asa Gonzalez is in this. Well, not that Asa Gonzalez. Remember the guy who was the villain in Mission Impossible 7 and 8? Him. Actually, pretty goddamn good. Mission Impossible finished on a real high note. That being said, everybody else should have been high while watching this because maybe you would have enjoyed it. For the first 30 or so minutes, you have the opening, you have the building, attempts to build these characters, fails miserably, where every so often people get, they're non-picks. They basically are just going to be sent home. You're not going to be, you will not be undersold. Dennis Quaid also realizes that, hey, you're not sleeping and you're going to crack and you're going to act weird. Oh, you're one to talk, Dennis. But you're a great soldier because 81 is acing all of this stuff. He's getting ahead of the curve on people. He's doing all the right things, but he's not sleeping. He's having nightmares. And yes, that subject of dealing with that mental health and seeing your brother die in front of you, especially in combat, seeing all this stuff happen, these people that you bled, that you sweat with, that you paid the ultimate price with. Yes, that would be difficult. This movie just isn't the right one to dive into that. And there's also stuff on the news in the background about like a meteorite with things fragmenting and pieces coming down, almost like, it's something else other than a meteorite. Moon rock, oh wow. And then suddenly they are going to go on this mission, the Death March, and they have blank rounds because it's a simulation and everything. And if they're captured by these people that are part of the simulation, that's it. Well, then their tech goes offline. Like, the radio's messed up. The compass is going like this. If they'd used a German one, it would have been Mein Compass. But they end up basically, seeing, oh, here's the thing we're supposed to blow up. It actually turns out that 81 saw what they were supposed to blow up, an old jet. And he sees this and says, wait a second, maybe we shouldn't be doing that. And then they do, and then the thing ends up basically coming to life, this war machine that can laser them and test them and target them with a bunch of otherworldly weapons. Because it turns out this machine was made for war, but so was he. And then people get picked off hilariously. There's one guy, of course, they have the black guy be immobilized and he has to be saved. And another thing about this movie was, 81 was awarded basically a very high honor for carrying his brother 10 miles back to base. But the thing is, his brother was still alive, but he couldn't make it to the finish line. His brother died before everybody, outside the base could get to him. And that's something that's haunted him. That's why he wanted to join the Army Rangers. Again, that's a nugget of something that could carry this. But no, we have this thing with the War Machine. And the problem is, once the War Machine shows up, it just reminds you of everything done in a lot of action movies, only better. Because this really is just Predator, probably with a bigger budget, but definitely not with as much fun or zingers. I think Predator 2 was better than this, and Predator 2 fucking sucked. But that being said, as the numbers dwindle, they have to find ways to damage this thing. They find various, weapons around from like this convoy that was basically destroyed. And they also find this vehicle where they're able to repair it and stuff like that, the last few that are left. And they have to, that 15 also knows about thermodynamics and that kind of stuff, and, car repair. Actually, thermodynamics comes up a little bit later, but yeah, all this stuff's going well. And then the War Machine shows up, and geez, we really shouldn't have been doing all this stuff while that goddamn War Machine that's about 2,000 feet tall is coming towards us, but whatever. They're taking off. Lasers. There's all these balls that it throws around like grenades. And boom. And da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But that being said, essentially, what we end up getting is, as the numbers dwindle, we realize that 81 is the only one that can stop him. So, he does have the one guy left. I forget the guy's name. I'm sorry. The black guy that was immobilized. It's not that I don't care about the actor. I don't care about the characters. As pretty much it's just down to them. His idea is they're at this rock quarry that just happens to fucking be there, just for whatever reason. And he's studied the machine. He's like, I could do something. So he has to have, the guy hidden away. And he manages to lure the machine there. That is damaged. They have managed to damage it with gunfire and stuff like that, but it's still really going. And blows up the cliff with dynamite to trip it up. It gets back up, and then suddenly he has this payloader that he rams, the War Machine with. Like it's fucking Carnosaur. Once I realized that, I'm like, oh, this movie's ripping off Carnosaur. Not that Carnosaur was the only one to do that with a payloader and a creature or a machine or whatever, but that's what I thought of. And no, if you were going to invoke Carnosaur when Carnosaur at least had fun with his premise, you're not doing it right. And he's pushing up against the thing, he's doing this, and the hydraulics are giving out, like things are not going all that well. That thing's overheating. Stay with me. And he manages to get the rocks to pour into the vent that's up top. Really bad design flaw, by the way, alien guys. But yeah, and it overheats and blows up, and boom. And there we go. The day is saved. Except remember what I said about the goddamn meteorite? Yeah, the stop leak, by the way. That's the stop leak thing. But remember what I said about the meteorite breaking up with other pieces? We got a few minutes left. He ends up carrying the guy across the goddamn finish line. Things are good. Oh, wait, we would have gotten you, but we've been preparing because of all this other stuff going on. We just picked up the pieces because there are more alien ships that are down destroying, and now we have to figure out a way to take them down. That's right. We just skipped the whole thing with Independence Day and Randy Quaid acting like a crackpot and all this stuff. God, both the Quaids are crackpots. Nevertheless, now we don't know how to stop these machines, but you stop one without any weapons. And you got to plug their vents and stuff like that. And then we're going to go off and we're going to do they're doing a sequel. They just shoved all this in at the end. I hate it. I hate it so much. And did anybody get his name as they're taking off in the helicopter? No. And yeah, that's they want to do War Machine 2. Earth Vent Boogaloo. I don't know what the hell they're saying. That's War Machine right there. A film that, by all accounts, should have worked, at least somewhat. And I don't mind brainless action, but if you're going to attempt to have some kind of, serious matter take place of soldiers' mental health and stuff like that, and you're not going to even do anything with it, and you're just going to have almost a war machine in the background. Don't do a stupid action movie called War Machine and then just have the War Machine end up falling at the feet of the Carnosaur fate. Whatever I'm trying to say. F. War Machine gets an F. So, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and until we see the Netflix original pile rise up out of the ashes again, God forbid, it's got to be better than this. I hope. Please? Maybe? Happy trails to you.